The Anglican Church of Papua New Guinea is a province of the Anglican Communion. It was created in 1976 when the province of Papua New Guinea became independent from the Province of Queensland in the Church of England in Australia following Papua New Guinea's independence in 1975. The first Archbishop and Primate of Papua New Guinea was David Hand, the Bishop of Port Moresby. Joseph Kopapa was Primate from 2010 to 2012. Before his election to the primacy, Kopapa was Bishop of Papua New Guinea. Prior to the primatial election, it was decided that the primate would have no diocesan responsibilities and would solely take on a national role. His successor as Bishop of Papua New Guinea was Lindsley Hove. Kopapa was succeeded by Clyde Igera, elected on 14 June 2013. History. Founding of the Anglican Mission. Britain assumed sovereignty over southeast New Guinea in 1888 and the General Synod of the Church of England in Australia then resolved that the recent annexation of portion of New Guinea imposes direct obligation upon the Church to provide for the spiritual welfare both of the natives and the settlers. In 1889 A. A. McLaren was appointed the first Anglican missionary to the region and in 1890 visited with Copeland King. They purchased land at Samurai for a mission station but McLaren died at the end of 1891 and King withdrew to Australia. In 1892 King returned to Dogura and built a mission house and two South Sea Islands teachers joined him in 1893 and were placed at Taupata and Awayama. In 1894 a teacher was placed at Boiani. Montague John Stonewig was appointed Bishop of New Guinea and spent 10 years there, establishing stations at Wainagela and Mukawa on Collingwood Bay in 1898 and Mamba at the mouth of the Mamba River in 1899. By 1901 there were 11 stations along the coast of North Papua and Milne Bay provinces, and Anglican influence had extended along 480 kilometers of coast. The Cathedral of SS Peter and Paul in Dogura, Milne Bay Province, is the largest Anglican church in Papua New Guinea. It seats 800, was consecrated in 1939, 3 years before the outbreak of war in the South Pacific, and survived the traumatic Japanese occupation of Papua New Guinea during World War II. Second World War and recovery. The Japanese had put ashore troops in Papua New Guinea by July 1942 with a view to taking Lae and Salamaua. The Japanese did not harass or occupy Dogura Mission itself, and services continued in the cathedral throughout the war, with congregations amply enlarged by visitors from the Australian and American armed forces. However, the Anglican Church elsewhere fared less well. In Anglican terminology, the New Guinea martyrs were 8 Anglican clergy, teachers and medical missionaries killed by the Japanese in 1942. The Anglican Bishop of New Guinea, Philip Strong, having instructed Anglican missionaries to remain at the posts despite the Japanese invasion. 333 church workers of various denominations were killed during the Japanese occupation of New Guinea. A statue of Lucian Tapiadi, the one indigenous Papuan among the Anglican martyrs of New Guinea, is installed among the niches with other 20th-century Christian martyrs from the wider church over the west door of Westminster Abbey in London. The statue of Lucian Tapiadi stands second from right. Post-war recovery was hindered by the eruption on the 21st of January 1951 of Mount Lamington, which devastated Higatura, which contained the Martyrs' School and the main mission center, where a diocesan synod was in progress. Both were destroyed, and Sangara, the northern district headquarters, where everyone was killed. Martyrs' School was subsequently re-established at Popondetta, where its apostolic toponym for obvious reasons came generally to refer to the hundreds of victims of the Mount Lamington eruption who died precisely because they were involved in church work at the time of the eruption. President David Han served as Archbishop from 1977 until 1983. George Ambo succeeded him from 1983 to 1989, becoming the first indigenous Papua New Guinean to hold the position. Joseph Kopapa has served in the position since 2010, since it was historically part of the ecclesiastical Province of Queensland. The Anglican Board of Mission Australia has provided ongoing personnel and material support to the Church. Today that support takes the form of funding for theological training, ministry, evangelism and building the Church's capacity for community development and enhanced provision of vital social services such as education and health, including HIV/AIDS. The Anglican mission was not well funded in years past and it did not compare favorably with other Christian denominations in Papua New Guinea in terms of health and education services. Roman Catholic, Lutheran, Congregational and Methodist missions elsewhere in the country established plantations and other commercial enterprises by way of funding mission activities and were able to recruit Polynesian mission staff from elsewhere in the South Pacific. The Anglican mission centered in Oro and Milne Bay, which were in early years less amenable to commercial enterprise and without a substantial mission presence elsewhere in the South Pacific, lacked these resources and depended on mission funds and personnel in Australia and England. There are two church-affiliated high schools, Martyrs Memorial School in Popondetta, Northern Province, and Holy Name School in Dogura, Milne Bay Province, and numerous primary schools in Northern and Milne Bay Provinces. The Church operates Newton College, a theological seminary for the training of clergy in Popondetta and, in cooperation with the Evangelical Lutheran Church of Papua New Guinea and the Goodneus Lutheran Church, Balop teaches college in lay membership, in accordance with early concordats among European missionaries by which they agreed not to engage in undue competition with each other. Anglican missionary activity was largely confined to the Northern and Milne Bay districts of Papua. The Oro Province remains the only civil province of Papua New Guinea of which a majority of the population are Anglican. There are pockets of Anglicans in the Western Highlands, in the western extremity of West New Britain and of course, significantly, in Port Moresby where the core constituency of Oro and Wedai people is supplemented by foreign residents of the city structure. The Archbishop of Papua New Guinea is both metropolitan and primate. The polity of the Anglican Church of Papua New Guinea is Episcopalian, as with all Anglican churches. The Church maintains a system of geographical parishes organized into dioceses. There are 5 dioceses, each headed by a bishop. There are no metropolitical dioceses as such, and the Primate and Archbishop of Papua New Guinea may be any one of the 5 diocesan bishops, who concurrently retains his designation as bishop of his diocese. The dioceses are Aipo Rongo, the New Guinea Islands, with its sea city formerly in Rabaul, though since Rabaul's destruction by volcanic eruption in 1992 the de facto sea city has been Kopapa, en.b. Port Moresby, including the entirety of Papua apart from Milne Bay and Northern Provinces, Popondetta with its sea city in Popondetta, Northern Province, and Dogura, taking in Milne Bay Province. Dogura is the location of the Cathedral of SS Peter and Paul, the Anglican Church of Papua New Guinea's only traditional European-style cathedral of substantial size and built of masonry. It was consecrated on the 29th of October 1939. worship and liturgy. Liturgical translations into local languages, such as Wedai, Ubia, Mukawa and Binamdia, were an early part of the first missionaries' work. Today, a local variant of the Book of Common Prayer is used in the simplified English of the Good News Bible and with similar illustrations. A conundrum for the Church has been the question of an appropriate common liturgical language in the Papua New Guinean environment of radical, even extreme, multiculturalism. New Guinea Pidgin is an official language of the country and is spoken and understood by more Papua New Guineans than any other, but it is little known in the Anglican heartland of Oro and Milne Bay provinces. An Anglophone Anglican Church of Papua New Guinea hymn book was published in the early 1980s, which contains a strictly limited number of hymns from a variety of traditions. As in most churches of the Anglican Communion worldwide apart from the Diocese of Sydney in Australia, the churchmanship, as demonstrated by the Papua New Guinea prayer book, is Anglo-Catholic. The normative Sunday service is the Eucharist, commonly referred to as Mass. Matins is virtually unknown. Clergy are addressed as Father. Religious orders, the Melanesian Brothers and the Anglican Franciscans, play a considerable role in the life of the Church. Oro tapa cloth is a characteristic feature of church decoration and liturgical vestments, as befits a denomination substantially characterized by Oro people, and church festivals are often marked by congregants appearing in traditional Oro dress, with Oro drumming and singing. Ecumenical Relations. The Anglican Church of Papua New Guinea participates in the Melanesian Council of Churches, and despite the obviously closer social and religious ties of overseas Anglicans with overseas equivalents of the United Church, maintains especially close ties with the Evangelical Lutheran and Roman Catholic churches. With both the Lutherans and Roman Catholics, the Anglican Church of Papua New Guinea has entered into formal mutual recognition of baptism, and Anglican Papua New Guineans seeking membership in the Roman Catholic Church therefore not submit to conditional baptism as in some other parts of the world. However, unlike the Roman Catholics, the Anglican Church of Papua New Guinea practices open communion, and as in many other national Anglican bodies worldwide, baptized Christians of other traditions, typically spouses of Anglican Papua New Guineans, but also foreign residents of Papua New Guinea, are welcome to participate fully in the life of the Church, including communicating at Mass, without being required to obtain episcopal confirmation.